Our scripture today is Matthew 5:13 through 20. You are the salt of the earth, but what if salt were to lose its flavor? How could you restore it? It would be fit for nothing but to be thrown out and trampled underfoot. You are the light of the world. You don't build a city on a hill and then try to hide it, do you? You don't light a lamp, then put it under a bushel basket, do you? No, you set it on a stand where it gives light to all in the house. In the same way, your light must shine before others so that they may see your good acts and give praise to your Abba God in heaven. Don't think I've come to abolish the law and the prophets. I have come not to abolish them, but to fulfill them. The truth is, until heaven and earth pass away, not the smallest letter of the law, not even the smallest part of a letter, will be done away with until it is all fulfilled. That's why whoever breaks the least significant of these commands and teaches others to do the same will be called the least in the kingdom of heaven. Whoever fulfills these teaches these commands will be called great in the kingdom of heaven. I tell you, unless your sense of justice surpasses that of religious scholars and the Pharisees, you will not enter the kingdom of heaven. Hear what the Spirit is saying to the church.
Helen and Val, I'd invite you to come forward and join me up front. So this morning we have another one of like our interview style sermons. So we're going to be talking with Helen and Val. I've got a couple questions. Our Black History Month Planning Committee really wanted to have an opportunity to hear from some Centralites about their experiences as Black people here in Detroit. So they invited Helen and Val to join us this morning. Please give them a round of applause. It's not easy to do this. Get up in front of all you all and speak every Sunday morning. I know this from experience. It's not that easy. But I'll start with an easy question. Why don't you say your name and how long you have been here at Central, how long you've been a part of this community. Helen, we'll start with you.
Okay, my name is Helen Monroe.
Just hold the mic a little bit closer.
My name is Helen Monroe, and I've been at Central since 1967 or 68, not sure. I've been in Detroit since 1953, and I came from North Carolina.
Thank you. Yep.
Good morning, Central. My name is Val Aniche Obonaya. I came to Detroit in 1982, and I have been in Central since that year, 1982.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. So part of the reason the Planning Committee invited you two to speak is that you both kind of represent very different experiences as Black people in Detroit. So both of you, in many ways, are migrants to Detroit, but you came at different times and from different places. So Helen, as you said, you came from the south to the north, a descendant of enslaved Black people, and as part of that great migration. And Val, you came as an African immigrant. So I just would like you just to kind of share briefly about why you and your family came to this place. Sure, you can start. Yep.
Okay, thank you very much, Reverend.
Yeah.
And thank you, Central, for this opportunity. I came here from New York, where I was with my folks, and I was working in one of the restaurants there as a busboy, And so the owner of the restaurant one day called me to the side and say, hey, I will make you an offer that you will not refuse. So I kind of laughed over it. I didn't understand. And he just left it at that. He went away. And few weeks after, came back and said, did you think about it? I said, what, sir? I said, I will make you an offer. See me after break at the office. So when I went to the office to see him, Mr. Marshall, Singer was the guy's name, he said to me, I want to send you to Detroit to be my assistant manager there at my restaurant in Detroit. I didn't know they had a branch here. And that restaurant used to be across the street, Fleming and Bass. I don't know, people who, yes. So I said, no, sir, I'm in school. How can I? I said, they have excellent schools in Detroit, Michigan. You would love it there. I said, okay, let me talk to my folks about it. He said, okay, go and talk to them, then come back. I will come back to you in a month or so. And that happened when I told my folks about it. They couldn't believe it at first. And then thereafter, they said, okay, you can take a chance. You like adventures, you like going places. And when the boss came back and said, are you ready? I said, yes. He flew me down to Detroit that year and showed me the place around, introduced me to the manager, and that's how I ended up here in Detroit. Now, with Central, I have people from this church that come over there to eat lunch. It's just across the street. And one day, a gentleman walked in there as an assistant manager. He saw me helping clean getting the tables ready for customers. So he called me to the side and said, come here, young man. You're not from here. So I looked at him, I said, no. I said, no, I'm not. I'm from Nigeria originally, but I live here. He said, oh, yeah, I thought so. I don't know why he said that, but after we started, talking, he had said, I don't think an American would do what you're doing. So he said, he then asked me, do you have a church? I said, no, I'm still trying to find one, but I used to attend Methodist church back home, and in fact, I attended Methodist institutions in Nigeria. He said, okay, I have a Methodist church across the street. It's a good church, you will like it. Come and worship with us the following Sunday. So the following Sunday, I came over, and that's how I ended at Central. And since then, it's been central in everything. That's my story.
Well, Val, we're so glad that your boss in New York made you an offer you couldn't refuse, and that some Centralite invited you while at the restaurant. So I can't help myself but say, wherever you're going for brunch this morning, think about making an invitation. Thanks, Val. Helen. Yes.
Thanks, Val. Well, my journey was a little different. I grew up in North Carolina. I was born in Fayetteville to a single mom, and then she worked with a colonel, and she was a nanny, so she traveled and she couldn't take care of me. So I went to live with my aunt and uncle in North Carolina, Maxton. And as I've told people before, the area, it was on a farm. And if you remember back in the 40s and 50s, people were no longer slaves, black people, but they were slaves to the master or the owner of the land. Because as the song goes, I sold myself to the country store. you never paid the debt off. You were always in debt, no matter what you worked, cotton or tobacco. And my uncle and aunt had tobacco and cotton. And, you know, you were just there. So when they passed away, well, let me just say, Maxton, North Carolina, I never really saw white people because the area that I was in, Maxton, was a mixture of black people and Indians. And they call the Indians there Croatans because that came from back in the 1800s. And they were a mixture of blacks, Europeans, and Indians. So they did not want to be recognized as either. They wanted to have their own identity. And they later in the 50s became the Lumbee people of North Carolina. So I was there and I stayed there. And when my uncle passed, I went to live with my grandfather in in Red Springs, and then 1 year, and then I moved to Laurinburg, North Carolina. Well, Laurinburg, North Carolina was kind of like the Hastings here back in the day because it was segregated, so the black people had their own community. So I never was really associating with white people. It was always the black community. We had the black churches, the stores, the hospital, the school. Matter of fact, the reason we moved to Laurinburg was because my aunt had gone to Laurinburg Institute. It was a boarding school for black women, and that's how she knew had a connection there, because you always had to have a connection when you were coming basically migrating from the south to the north. So, but she was migrating from the country to the small city. So I was there until I graduated. I was there until the 11th grade. And then my mom had by that time left Fayetteville, and she was in Detroit. And so she suggested that I should come to Detroit because they might put me back if I came to Detroit having graduated from the South. So I came at the end of the 11th grade, and I did my senior year at Northeastern High School. And so it was just a big difference in what was happening with me, because I tell you, I do not remember a lot of stuff. I don't remember leaving North Carolina, Laurinburg, and getting on a train coming to Detroit. I was 17 years old. My aunt was going to New York, and I came to Detroit. And I don't remember how I transferred from the train in Washington, D.C., to get on the train to come to Grand Central over here, and my mom met me there. It was just amazing. And the building at Northeastern seemed mammoth. And so I was only there 1 year. I didn't know a lot of people, but I ended up with a scholarship from Delta Sigma Theta sorority, and I went to Wayne State University. And so then I was at Wayne State. I became a teacher, and years later, I was going to Ebenezer AME Church for years. When the church split, my mom went to People's Community with Reverend Carlisle Stewart. I said, I'm staying at the church because we had a great youth group, and I loved it. And I stayed with Ebenezer until I came to Central. And that's kind of the story.
All right. Thank you. All right. I'll have you hold on to your mic.
Oh, okay.
It's okay. So, you both have experienced a lot of change here in the city of Detroit. But what I really want to ask you is, given your experiences of migrating here, of where you grew up and coming to Detroit and what you've seen change, we're in a really challenging historical moment with MAGA, authoritarianism, Christian nationalism. Sort of how do you make sense of that, given your life experience? How do you understand it?
I would say, to put it mildly, it's kind of shocking to me. in that since I got into Detroit, I have always loved this city, the people. Um, I honestly did not see a lot of difference except for big building and things like that. But the social life remained the same. And also, as a student at Wayne State, I never really had so much to do in the inner city and things like that. But, as students and young folks, we do go out to party, social, and it was kind of everybody coming together then. People come together, we do things together, But having lived all this time to now that we see differences in the way people act and behave, and because of the political climate, that is kind of not only shocking but scary to me. I never in my life, staying here in Detroit, found myself anything else but happy. I was always happy, we were happy, you can move around, like I said. But these days, things are no longer the same. You are scared even to step out. You are scared to even say something to your neighbor because you don't know what he or she has in mind. You don't know where they place you. They may think that you belong to this set or you belong to that. So yes, there is a very huge difference between when I came in and lived through all these years. I've been in Detroit for quite some time, and I've done a whole lot in Detroit, both as a student, as a professional in my field. I have done a lot to at least part of not only the city that I have come into, but also the country. But to see and hear and witness what is happening today with division is kind of scary. And that I would say, it's my own experience and the way I feel about things. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, coming to Detroit in the 50s, it was segregated. I know that I'm thinking in terms of what's going on now is kind of brings you back to McCarthyism and the fact that how people were afraid with the authoritarianism, the ICE people around. You don't know who you're talking to. And it makes a difference, it throws you back. It's like going backwards. Because when I was at Wayne in 1954, it was very segregated, it was very prejudiced, I should say, racism. There was racism because I wanted to be a nurse. But I didn't have money to go to school. Wayne State, I got a scholarship. So the next year, I was able to go to the finance office and borrow $98, and I had 12 credit hours. You remember that? And so I finished that. That's a big change right there. Yes. Paid off that and went the next year and on and on. But anyway, as I was going along with nursing, I got to the point where I was on the floor at Hutzel Hospital and 3 North Hudson. It was I guess Harper Hospital, yeah. And I was taking a pharmacology class, and I just could not. I was working 2 jobs and in nursing, and I just could not handle it. And I was not familiar with what Wayne was like. I remember taking this government class, and I was in this class, and all of a sudden, people started dropping out. I didn't know what was going on, because you were never to leave a class. You were only to stay there and do your best. And so all of a sudden, there were just these few people, and it ended up being all fellas. And they would sit around the table with the professor, and they would talk. And he had this key that he was swinging. And I didn't know until later on, it was a Phi Beta Kappa key. I didn't know what was going on. Later on, I found out, they got the test. I mean, they knew the exam. It was 200-question exam for mid-semester and final. That was it. So mid-semester, I got a D. I was devastated because I had never gotten anything but A's and B's. And I was really shocked. I stuck it out, studied. I finally got a D out of the class. Was happy to get a D. And it was just devastating. But I find out later, kids were able to get the test and learn and study the test. And they were getting it was like 98s, 97, 95. So, the average person just couldn't do that. So it was really difficult to go through. So my advisor says, well, not too many black people do nursing anyway. You should go into education. So I didn't want to do it because I thought, well, why should I do that when I wanted to be a nurse? But I could not do both. I could not do two jobs. I was working down at Wayne State, 50 cents an hour in Old Main. And then I was working at the Y in Highland Park. And I get home at 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock at night. And so trying to study and then go to school the next day, and it was just too difficult. So I said, okay, rather than flunk out of Wayne State, I'm going to switch over. And that's when I went into education. But it was the best decision that I made because eventually I became a counselor, and I loved it. I loved my work. So I would say that I've seen what we're seeing now, but not at the degree that we're seeing it at this point, because I wasn't around with McCarthyism, but I knew about it. But I know that when I came here, it was just the ending of Hastings. The black community here was being destroyed by I-375. And I remember my mom lived in part of that area, and then they moved over to the west side. But so many people were displaced because of this. And so the racism was always here, and it's just been under the surface. And anytime there's an opportunity for it to raise its head, it does. And I've seen it because I came here in the 50s and saw what was going on. I've seen progress, much progress. But it seems like sometimes when we take 2 steps forward, we go 1 step back. And that's what's happening with us now. But I think the difference is that there are more people who are concerned about moving forward than moving back.
Amen.
And I think that's what's going to help us.
That's a good word to end on. Yeah. I was going to ask about hope, and I think you answered it right there at the end. Val, one last question. What gives you hope?
My hope.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. That brings me back to the session we had last week. I said during our discussion that my hope is that a lot of us, a lot of the black, brown, and other immigrants, the blacks in particular, the blacks of this country, are getting education. That education is the key. That we have now risen to a point that in all facets of the community we're there. And we're not only there, but we're making our presence known. That is my hope. And I encourage us to continue doing that. And things will be better.
Thanks, Val. Yeah. Give them a round of applause. Thanks, you two. Thank you very much.